Hi, my name is Tammy. I am in Lehigh Township, Pennsylvania, and I used Contracting to work on a project of combining 2 bedrooms into a master bedroom suite for me, and they did a great job. I have wanted to do this project for about 10 years, and I got really serious about 3 years ago. And I started, but then my big question was, who can I trust? I started looking online, and you don't know what you're looking at. So I started doing searches on Google for contractors and designers near me. And next thing you know, on Instagram, those algorithms started feeding Contracting as well as other local contractors to me, and I really liked what I was seeing on Contracting's site as well as a few others. I called 3 in total, and I immediately liked the way Contracting responded so quickly to me. Very personable. I did talk to the others as well, but Contracting stood out very quickly as far as getting here, looking through it, just doing a very preliminary walkthrough, giving me an extremely rough estimate of what my dream list was going to cost. And then I started reading all of their comments that they had on Instagram. I saw all positive comments about their work. I didn't see any negative. And that's when I decided to go with Contracting. The initial contact with the designer and working with her, and I was actually going away for a very long vacation in February the one year. It was coming out of the pandemic and I was going away, and I just sent her pictures of what I had liked and printed off from being online. And I also sat with her one day and was talking about how I really wanted to get the laundry upstairs from the basement into the second floor. How I wanted to combine these 2 rooms because now I'm an empty nester and I have that luxury of not having to expand the footprint of the house to have a larger bathroom and bedroom for myself. And by the time I got back from vacation, she had a proposal, not a proposal of the job, but proposals of how to lay everything out. And like I said before, I had dreamed of this for years, but never knew how to make it all fit. And I don't know how she did it, but she was able to fit everything I wanted in. She also asked me for my top 5 wants, and then the wish list on top of it. And we pretty much got everything in there, but she made sure I got those top 5. Well, this house was built in the late 80s, which is, at least for this house, it's just prior to the larger bathrooms. And so for me now, like I said, being an empty nester and just the luxury, I wanted that laundry upstairs, lugging everything downstairs all the time, when most of your laundry's upstairs anyway. Wanted the walk-in closet. I really wanted the walk-in shower, and what I had before off of the primary bedroom was this little stall of a shower. So I wanted the larger shower, and those were my biggest challenges, plus the flooring. If you stood at one place on my first floor, you would see 4 different floor coverings. And now that's not the story. So I basically replaced the flooring in the entire house through Contracting as well. And they worked with me there because they did the first floor in the fall, and then that allowed me to move everything from the second floor down because they started in January on the upstairs. So that allowed me a 3-month time period where I was able to box everything up upstairs, move it downstairs, use that as a warehouse, and where I slept for a couple of months while they were here working. And they really kind of helped me save money wherever I could and get the project done. I never thought about moving that wall. You know, I thought about moving the one wall between the two rooms, and my dream of these double French doors between the bedroom and the bathroom, and they made it happen. But I never thought of moving the second wall, which gave me a larger walk-in closet. It gave me a laundry room, and I still have a bathroom large enough to enjoy. It's difficult to pick out one thing because everything on my list that I really liked or wanted happened. So the laundry is key to being up on the second floor. It changed the quality of life for me in many ways. You know, getting the new flooring in the whole house means I don't have really old carpet to be cleaning anymore. Having the laundry upstairs is so much more convenient. Having the radiant heat. The one issue with these two rooms was they were separate rooms, and they were the last room on the heating duct chain. So they were always the coldest or hottest, depending on the season. And what we did is we put radiant heat in the bathroom floor, and then we also put a fan in the bedroom. And between those two, and now having a door open between the two rooms, it's eliminated the issue of these two rooms being either too cold or too hot. The process was very smooth from one step to the next. You know, I didn't know what was, I've done other minor projects in my house, but this was way too big for me, along with like a friend who knew something to be helping. So I actually had to get used to the fact that I wasn't allowed to basically do anything. You know, they took over and they were like, no, we'll lift that, we'll do that. And so I just kind of checked in, maybe couple times a day. I'd come upstairs and ask questions, but they always were open to answering everything I asked. Every day there were text messages from the office, from the project manager, depending on what was going on. Earlier on, maybe I had questions with something from the design or something that we weren't sure of, and they would reach out to the designer, or the project manager would do that. There was also a notebook here on site from day one that listed, it had all the presentations that the designer put together of measurements of everything, the actual proposal and contract I had signed with them, all the permits that they took care of with the local township, and I didn't have to do anything. They just took care of the permits with the township, and that was a relief because I wouldn't have even known what to ask for. One thing I really liked about the whole team, they're all very qualified, but there's some more senior members who have been doing it for a long time, and then there's some younger people, and I don't mean they don't know what they're doing at all, because any one of them could probably build a house on their own, but they weren't, they haven't been doing it for 30 years. And the camaraderie between them, the more senior guys, the younger guys who were just, the mentoring that was going on, and the younger people were open to everything they were learning. I told them that many times that I really appreciated seeing that kind of passing knowledge on, to the next generation. And they worked very well with their home office people. They have a website called Builders Trend, which I logged on to pretty much a couple times a week, which told me who was going to be here on what day, what they were going to be doing on those days. And sometimes they had to change it, but they did update it all the time, which was good for me because I like spreadsheets and things like that. Builders Trend also allowed me to pay my invoices. It allowed me to communicate via email with the project manager or the designer, who there were times I had a question and they were contacting me about the issue prior to me even getting to contact them. So they all communicate with each other, with me, with the home office, and that was great because I didn't have to repeat anything. So I was very impressed with the teamwork of all of G Contracting. You know, the two gentlemen who did the plaster work were just artists. And they're part of the family from G Contracting, from what I learned after the fact. But they just were able to do, I've tried to do spackling and it's horrible. And they were just so smooth and made everything work. They were great. I really liked the dynamics between the team at the very end that came here quite often was Kirk and Shane. So shout out to them because they were one of those mentor teams that in my mind, I really liked watching that relationship. A successful project depends a lot on what you do with your designer at the very beginning. You know, because I was aware of the budget, very tight on the budget. I wanted to make sure there were no change orders or minimal change orders. But spending the time with your designer and telling her what you wanted, and my list was pretty long. She cut it down. She said, okay, what's the top priorities? There were little things though that I was like, well, it's just me now, so I want some female touches. So she put like crystal knobs on the handles, things like that that are just minor, but they're not minor. They make the finishing touches, and they didn't increase the cost that much for me. And she showed me some websites. The day I spent with her at their warehouse looking at tiles, she was picking out flooring for tiles for me, and I was just wandering around when I saw the penny tile that was blue and gray, which are my favorite colors, and I just pulled that and I said, this is what I want to build the entire room around, and we did. So I think working with your designer and being very certain about what you want. They are flexible when their changes happen, that happens. But they're flexible there. But locking down that design and not being, wishy-washy about what you wanted, knowing it, reading that contract really well, making sure you know what's in there, creates a smooth process for the whole way through. Yes. Beforehand they mentioned change orders, and I mentioned I want to avoid as much as possible. But what happened was the room between the two, the wall between the two rooms turned out to be a load-bearing wall, and that wasn't something they expected, nor did I. And but I was also very impressed with the way they handled it. That same day that it was discovered, the owner of the business called me and told me there was going to be a change order and about what it was going to be. That involved them getting an engineer involved to make sure that the support was done correctly. They handled all of that for me. Change order wasn't that bad of an expense, but at the same time, that fact that they put a support beam in there changed the scope of the project a little bit by me not moving one of the windows that was right around that support beam, and that reduced it a little bit. So even though there was a change order for more, there was some reductions that happened because of it. And they knew how important all of that was to me, and they really worked with me on that. Well, I already have. So I have a good friend that's coming here this week to actually see the project because she's looking at doing something similar to mine, and I've already spoken with her a good hour and a half talking about the entire process that I went through with G Contracting, how all the pleasant surprises that was, and my concerns of trust in the beginning, and the quality and all of those things were impressive to me. So I already have referred G Contracting to several of my friends. And there was one thing that in particular really stood out to me. it was a good 3 weeks into the project, 4 weeks, and the electrician had to climb up into the crawl space of the house, which I've never been in. And he had to do something with the wiring for the lighting, but he noticed a rafter that was cracked. And he took a picture and sent it to his supervisor. And he didn't need to do that. He could have looked the other way, you know? So they brought it to my attention, they fixed it. So it wasn't part of their project, but they cared about the quality of my home in general. And that just really stood out to me.